Most people think that retirement is about how much money you've saved. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If you don't know what you actually spend each year, your retirement number is almost guaranteed to be wrong. That's why some people can retire comfortably with far less than expected, while others retire with millions and they still run out of money. The difference isn't luck, it's planning. And once you truly understand this, retirement math finally starts to make sense. In this video, we're breaking down how much money you really need to retire in your 50s. Not the guesswork, not the round numbers, and not with generic advice that ignores real life. We're going to focus on spending, taxes, debt, inflation, and the 5 most common ways that people calculate a retirement number, including where those methods work, where they fail, and where early retirement requires a very different way of thinking. This isn't theory. This is how real retirement plans succeed, or they quietly fall apart. If you're serious about retiring early, or even just retiring with confidence, this is the foundation. Most retirement conversations start with one question, and that is, how much do you have saved? And while savings matters, it absolutely does, but savings alone doesn't tell whether retirement will actually work. 2 people can have the exact same portfolio balance and have completely different outcomes in retirement. Why? Because retirement isn't about the size of the pile. It's about how fast money leaves that pile and whether that outflow is sustainable. People rarely run out of money because the market crashes once. They run out of money because spending, taxes, withdrawals, and lifestyles were never aligned in the first place. A large portfolio can hide bad assumptions for years. It can make poor planning feel safe until it suddenly isn't. And when things finally break, it often feels shocking, even though the warning signs were there all along. The portfolio didn't fail, the assumptions did. And this is why focusing only on savings creates a false sense of security. It shifts attention away from the one thing that actually determines your success, which is your cash flow, what's coming in, what's going out, and how those numbers change over time. The problem usually isn't the money. It's the math behind the money. If there's one idea to take away from this entire video, it's this. If you don't know what you need to spend each year in retirement, your retirement number will be wrong, period. Most people underestimate, not because they're irresponsible, but because spending is emotional and it's irregular. We remember the big bills, but we forget about the uneven ones. Home maintenance, medical costs, travel, replacing vehicles, and helping family. Also, any unexpected life events. Retirement doesn't eliminate your spending. It changes when and how it shows up. And if you don't account for that shift, your plan will feel solid on paper, but stressful in real life. So when my husband and I planned our early retirement, the very first thing we did wasn't run calculators or chase a magic number. We tracked our spending across months, across seasons, across years. And that clarity removed fear. Because once you know what your life actually costs, everything else becomes solvable. Now let's get practical. There are 5 common ways that people calculate a retirement number. Every one of them can work, and every one of them can fail. The difference comes down to your spending accuracy, taxes, timing, and flexibility. So let's walk through each one carefully, not just how they work, but why people are drawn to them and where they quietly fall apart. This is where most retirement advice goes wrong, and where you can get it right. Method 1 is the 25x spending rule. This one is one of the most widely used approaches in early retirement planning. The idea is simple. You take your annual spending and multiply it by 25. So if you spend $50,000 a year, that points to about $1.25 million. People like this method because it shifts the conversation away from arbitrary net worth goals towards lifestyle. And that's a good thing. It forces you to ask a better question. What does my life actually cost? Where this method works well is as a starting framework. Where it breaks down is when people forget that spending and withdrawals are not the same thing. Taxes matter. Where your money comes from matters. $50,000 lifestyle funded entirely from a Roth account is very different from a $50,000 lifestyle funded from a pre-tax account. Ignoring taxes is how safe plans quietly fail. Let's anchor this with real math, because this is where things finally click for most people. If someone spends about $40,000 a year, the math points to roughly $1 million. If someone spends closer to $30,000 a year, the same math points closer to $750,000. And for someone living very intentionally, spending around $20,000 to $25,000 a year, you start seeing scenarios where $500,000 can work. It's the same math, but completely different outcomes. This is why asking, can I retire with $500,000 or is $1 million enough? It's the wrong first question. The right question is, what does my life actually cost? And is my plan built around that reality? Method 2 is the fixed net worth targets. This is the most common approach, even if people don't realize they're using it. They pick a number. It could be 1 million, 2 million, or even 3 million, because it feels clean and it feels official. And it avoids the uncomfortable work of tracking spending. But this method is also dangerous because $1 million doesn't mean anything by itself. $1 million supporting a $35,000 lifestyle is very different from $1 million supporting a $90,000 lifestyle. It also ignores taxes completely. $1 million in pre-tax accounts is not the same as $1 million in Roth accounts or even in a taxable brokerage account. This method often leads people to oversave for their lives that they don't actually want, or undersave because the number feels unreachable. A round number is comforting, but comfort is not the plan. Method 3 is the income replacement, which is roughly 70 to 80% of your income. This method aims to replace a percentage of your working income in retirement. The logic is that some expenses go away when you stop working. And for traditional retirees, this can be a rough starting point. Where it breaks down for early retirees is that early retirement doesn't look like working life without a job. Healthcare often costs more. Travel increases. Time-rich lifestyles shift spending priorities. And income is not the same as spendable money. Replacing income does not guarantee that you can replace lifestyle. Your paycheck disappearing doesn't mean that your spending is disappearing. Method 4 is the cash flow matching. This method focuses on reliable income instead of portfolio size. The question becomes, how much income do I need each year and where will it come from? It can be something like rental income, dividends, annuities, eventually Social Security or pensions. And people like this method because it feels stable. But cash flow is not spendable income. Vacancies happen, repairs happen, and taxes reduce what you actually keep. So this method works best when paired with flexibility, not rigid assumptions. And method 5, the bridge first planning. This is the most important method for anyone retiring early. If you retire before Social Security and before Medicare, you need a bridge plan. The bridge is what supports you from the day that you stop working until the year you decide to take Social Security and until Medicare begins. This is where many early retirement plans fail. People focus on the total number, but they forget how the money actually gets them through the early years. A strong bridge plan answers very specific questions. How long does the bridge need to last? How much does it need to provide each year? And where is that money coming from? And how are withdrawals taxed? How does healthcare fit into this picture? A weak bridge plan creates stress. A strong bridge plan creates flexibility. If the bridge fails, the retirement fails, no matter how big the portfolio looks. Now, for simplicity, we're not including Social Security or pensions in any of these numbers. Not because they don't matter. They absolutely do. But by removing them, it keeps the plan conservative and easier to understand. And if your plan works without Social Security or a pension, it becomes incredibly strong with them. So think of them as a reinforcement, not the foundation. Now let's cover debt and inflation, because they don't usually destroy retirement plans overnight. They do it slowly. By raising the floor of what you must spend, every fixed payment reduces flexibility. Inflation hits housing, insurance, healthcare, and your food first. So lower intentional spending gives you options. Flexibility is the real hedge against inflation. So retirement math fails most people for one reason. They plan once and they never revisit it. Spending changes, taxes change, and life changes. Successful retirees adjust. They revisit their assumptions. They course correct. Retirement planning is not a calculation. It's a process. So how much money do you really need to retire in your 50s? Well, there isn't one number. There's a process. You need to know your spending, understand your taxes, minimize debt, build a bridge. And if this video has helped you, here's the next step. Take a day and write down what you actually spend each year. And if you want more practical breakdown, make sure that you are subscribed. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. And don't forget that poor planning can make any amount of money fail, and good planning can make far less money work.